I'm gonna start this video, actually starting this video by saying I don't know how to start this video anymore because for so long, essentially I think for like 2 years, I've been saying hi, love to the side and back. My name is Tokika Uzuru, aka Toki. And I just like recently, as in a good week or so ago, changed my YouTube name, if you couldn't tell. So it's not Tokika Uzuru anymore because no. I wanted to go ahead and try to, like, now that I know what I want to do with my channel, I have to, like, make sure that it's well expressed what my channel is here to do. So, like, I now have to figure out how I'm going to be doing, like, intros and stuff. So, local internet friend here, aka Toki, uh, this video is already as chaotic as it can possibly be because a lot of stuff was not planned and a lot of stuff happened last minute. And no! This is very much on brand with like how my videos typically go, but if you wanted to know exactly like the ins and outs of being a fan girl slash boy, generalized girl of like K-pop specifically, and BTS to be very specific. Right as I was starting to record this video, I ended up getting a Weverse notification of something that RM ended up just an entire letter. And as I am in the middle of actually trying to figure out what I'm saying, then Jimin ended up posting something on Weverse. And that's where that guttural no came from. So if you wanted to understand exactly like the ins and outs of being a fan of a K-pop idol group, it's realizing that sleep means absolutely nothing on certain days, and like if there's peace, there's usually planning behind the peace. So you have to enjoy it as much as you can. That's very on brand for what this video is actually about though. This video itself is like an exposition to the two-parter media messages video that I'm about to be doing. And I say exposition specifically because in order for me to have recorded those videos, I need to have a bit of a generalized, like, this is how stuff has been working so far. So I don't have to like stop in the middle of the video to go ahead and explain it. But this is also one of those, in and of itself, a larger message that talks about a lot of differences between word usage that we as the Western part of the world is used to versus how specifically the K-pop industry use certain words. And the ultimate message that I would like to go ahead and leave in this video is Bangtan Sonyeondan, aka BTS, is the exception, not the standard. Often when I was doing research on the history of K-pop specifically, you end up getting a lot of people that say that the lyrics, the K-pop lyrics specifically, tend to be more about like mental health and like standing up for yourself and stuff like that. And often you hear that simply because BTS have made a lot of songs about that specifically. And to add on to that, so has Blackpink. But that's not what this video is about. This is one of the main reasons as to why I highly encourage you, if you decide to go ahead and listen to K-pop music, to look further into the lyrics, or at least have them translated in your language so you can read them. Because, my gods, my guys, generalizing. You don't understand that a lot of the songs that they have these idols sing slash rap tend to be more about like a generalized love thing. While I'm not saying that there aren't other songs that were written with the idea of talking about one's mental state in general in mind, I think people tend to forget that those who are written in history as like pioneers of a certain thing are often ridiculed because they decide to do something different than the rest of whatever industry they're in. And this typically happens way more in music and is essentially part of K-pop history. But in doing stuff like that, they have also, BTS has also separated themselves from how essentially we Westerners dealt with the stereotypical boy band. So not only are they technically classified as a boy band and also technically classified as an K-pop idol group, they generally do not, they generally do other things that people, that those in those specific categories do not do. So they're honestly just making an entire niche for themselves and then fulfills that niche. The thing I'm trying to get to is the idea of BTS specifically is different from most boy bands and most male K-pop idol groups. Essentially, they raised the bar. And now that everyone's trying to catch up, everyone's also realizing exactly how like exhausting it is. Especially if you're not doing it specifically because you care. Or even if you care. That's a completely other topic entirely that I do not want to talk about in this video. So like they changed the overall K-pop idol game by essentially being themselves. Weren't technically favored by their own industry for the first few years. Mainly because there are certain things that they didn't fit in. Not being the typical K-pop idol group, like being very highly polished and cookie cutter, had way more artistic control than most of the other groups at the time. And overall, they were technically underdogs. At the very least, with all of these in mind, the odds themselves seemed stacked against them. The thing that I'm supposed to be talking about in this video specifically is artistic integrity and artistic satisfaction. Because, as I said earlier, BTS ended up doing something that essentially helped them stay together as a boy band and as a male K-pop idol group for longer. Now, apparently the standard time for an idol's career is about 7 years. While at the time of recording this, depending on where you are in the world, BTS will be coming up on their 10th anniversary the day after I record this. And like I explained earlier, they have as artists way more artistic control over things like the songs that they get to write, what they get to write about, and overall like how each album is supposed to be like fitted. So they not only look good, they actually do have talent talent that they have all worked on over the 10 years that they've been together. And while they still had to go ahead and deal with the yay or nay system that the company has to work on, has them working under, basically they have to get their lyrics okayed by someone. I don't remember the specifics and my brain is tired already. But the idea of they write their own lyrics and then they go ahead and get it checked by someone in the company to make sure that we're all good. And when it comes to their albums and the mini albums that were released, the main focus on those albums was what do we want to put out as a group. And that's typically how groups themselves, how musical groups themselves are supposed to work. To be honest, it did take One Direction of like 3 albums to actually end up getting as much artistic control over stuff like that. And even then, they didn't last but like 6 years. But in between releasing the albums and the mini albums, they also worked on like their own solo projects while still in the group. The rap line, specifically Suga, RM, and J-Hope, releasing what they have classified as mixtapes. There's a reason why I say that. So typically rappers themselves end up releasing mixtapes. Think of it as like a taste of their talent and their ability to go ahead and do whatever they said they would do artistically. However, the way that they wrote their own mixtapes, they seem more like full-length albums. At the very least, on the level of how much work they have put into them, and like essentially the length being as equal to a stereotypical K-pop album length. So with them being able to do essentially their own solo projects while also working on the entire group project thing, that is releasing the albums and the mini albums and then the comebacks and everything, and promotion when it comes to that album, and pretty much everything else that my brain will not try to put together right now. They were able to say what they couldn't say as a group individually. So essentially they ended up finding a way of preventing what I call the boy band curse, and that is the idea of there's this one specific group member that wants to go ahead and do their own thing. I'm only singling out boy bands specifically because this has happened a lot with boy bands, but it happens with groups entirely. This one member wants to go ahead and do their own thing, while these other group members don't really care about doing their own thing. And like the group itself ends up splitting or going on a complete hiatus because of this problem. So, in conclusion, BTS isn't the standard, but they should be. There's a reason why I ended up having to bring this up specifically, and that's because the media messages 2-parter that I'm going to be releasing soon happens to deal with one of the rappers of BTS, Suga, and his latest solo album, D-Day. And specifically, there's a lot more that I will end up having to cover, but I also had to explain specifically, one, why I have to use certain words, like why I have to use mixtape and then full-length album, simply because each member of the rap line from BTS has released at the very least 1 mixtape each. 2 of them have released 2, And by the time it was time for one of them to release a mixtape, they just ended up releasing an entire full-length album. So I not only will I end up having to talk about the two mixtapes that Suga specifically did, August D and D2, I will also end up having to bring up his full his solo album D-Day, and having to explain why I have to use that type of terminology hurts my brain. So I just decided to go ahead and make a completely different video to express how that goes and why I have to specifically use the terminology that I do. Anyway, I've been talking for honestly way too long for my liking, so get strapped in for this hyperfixation that I ended up spending a good like month or so trying to put the notes together for. Collectively, I think I've spent a good month on this. In general, I think with the breaks that I had to take in between, it was definitely like a 3-month period. Either way, it's time for the stereotypical YouTuber outro, where I, as a stereotypical YouTuber, would ask you to do the following. The fact that that itself does not change makes me very happy, because I don't have to figure out how to deal with that again. Please don't forget to like, share, subscribe, hit the notification to be notified of whenever I post, and put any type of questions, comments, concerns, or ideas for future videos into the comment section down below. With all that being said, it is about time for me to go ahead and mentally check out, because I've been using my brain for way too long. This is your local internet friend signing out.